The slap wasn't scripted. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't part of the view. But the moment Whoopi Goldberg's hand struck Jonathan Roumie across the face on live television, something far more shocking happened. The man who plays Jesus Christ didn't just turn the other cheek. He did something that left 4.2 million viewers in complete silence. Something that made even the most hardened atheists question everything they thought they knew about faith. He looked directly into Whoopi's eyes, placed his hand gently on her shoulder, and whispered 7 words that would break the internet in half. "I forgive you, but God saw everything." The cameras caught it all. The sharp intake of breath from the studio audience. Joy Bihar's hand flying to cover her mouth. Sunny Hostin actually standing up from her chair. The boom operator lowering his equipment because he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. And Whoopi, the woman who had spent decades mocking faith on national television, collapsing to her knees right there on the stage, sobbing uncontrollably. But here's what the 4.2 million viewers didn't know. What the cameras couldn't capture. What would only be revealed in leaked audio 48 hours later. This wasn't just a random emotional breakdown. This was 30 years of buried guilt finally erupting. Because what Whoopi whispered through her tears as she knelt there wasn't an apology. It was a confession that would rock Hollywood to its core. But let's rewind. Because to understand the earthquake that happened in those 90 seconds, to truly grasp why Jonathan's response sent shockwaves through every church, mosque, and synagogue in America, we need to go back exactly 14 minutes. 14 minutes before the slap that made angels weep and demons tremble, the view set was buzzing with its usual controlled chaos. Stage managers barked countdown numbers. Makeup artists applied final touches. The teleprompter glowed with carefully crafted questions designed to do one thing: destroy the man who dared to portray Jesus Christ on television. Whoopi Goldberg sat in her chair, but she wasn't the same woman America thought they knew. Behind her trademark confidence, behind the jokes and the political rants, something had been eating at her for 3 decades. Something so dark, so devastating, that she had built her entire career around running from it. And today, staring across at Jonathan Roumie, the actor who had made millions of people believe in Jesus again through The Chosen, she was about to come face to face with the very thing she had spent her life trying to forget. The producers had no idea what they were about to unleash. They thought they were creating a viral moment, a little controversy to boost ratings. Get the religious guy flustered. Make him look foolish. Standard daytime television warfare. What they didn't know was that they had just lit a match in a room full of dynamite. Because Jonathan Roumie wasn't just an actor playing a role. He was a man who had experienced something on that set, something that had changed him so completely that even his own mother didn't recognize him anymore. And Whoopi wasn't just a talk show host with an agenda. She was a woman carrying a secret so heavy that it had crushed her soul for 30 years. The interview started innocently enough. Jonathan walked onto the stage wearing his simple black shirt and jeans, that same gentle smile that had captivated millions in The Chosen. No entourage, no security, no attitude. Just a man who had agreed to come on The View to talk about the new season. What he didn't know was that Whoopi had spent the previous night in her dressing room, staring at a photograph she hadn't looked at in decades. A photograph that would explain everything that was about to happen. "So, Jonathan," Whoopi began, her voice already carrying an edge that made the other hosts shift uncomfortably. "Let's talk about this Jesus thing you've got going on." She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "You really think you're channeling the Son of God? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just another actor playing dress-up for a paycheck." The studio audience stirred. This wasn't the friendly interview they had been expecting. Joy Behar glanced at her notes, confused. Sunny Hostin touched her cross necklace instinctively. But Jonathan just smiled. That same peaceful expression that had made him famous, and said something that would haunt Whoopi for the rest of her life. "Whoopi, I think you know better than anyone that some roles choose us, not the other way around." The color drained from Whoopi's face. Her hands began to tremble. Because those words, that exact phrase, had been spoken to her once before, 30 years ago, by someone she thought she'd never have to face again. Someone whose memory she had buried so deep that hearing those words again felt like a resurrection. That's when everything went dark. Not the lights, not the cameras. Something deeper, something that had been waiting 3 decades to claw its way back to the surface. And Jonathan Roumie, the man who played Jesus, was about to become the key that unlocked Whoopi's most devastating secret. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying content like this, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we'll be sharing another powerful story about an encounter that changed someone's life forever. What happened next lasted exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds. But those 3 minutes would be replayed more than any moment in television history. "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me!" Whoopi snarled, standing up fast. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through." Jonathan didn't move, just looked at her with those same eyes that made millions believe in miracles. "But I do know you, Whoopi. I've known you since 1994. The words hit like lightning. Whoopi's face went white. "That's impossible. You were just a kid." "I was 20. Sister Act 2. Take 47. When you broke down crying and couldn't stop because it reminded you of someone you lost. Someone you failed to save." Whoopi's legs buckled. "Stop. Just stop. You told the director you couldn't finish the scene." That's when she snapped. Her hand flew across his face with a crack that echoed through the studio. The slap was so hard, a red mark bloomed instantly. Security moved forward, but Jonathan raised his hand to stop them. The silence was deafening. Then, Jonathan did something that shattered every heart watching. He touched his cheek, looked at the blood on his fingers and smiled. Pure, devastating compassion. "I forgive you, Whoopi. But more importantly, so does he. And so does Michael." The name hit her like a physical blow. She staggered backward, hands flying to her mouth. "How do you know that name?" Jonathan pulled out a worn photograph. A young woman in a nun's habit, holding a little boy. "Because Michael was my brother. And you were the last person to see him alive." Whoopi collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Jonathan got down beside her and whispered loud enough for mics to catch. "He forgave you 30 years ago, Whoopi. It's time you forgave yourself." America watched the most powerful woman in daytime television fall apart in the arms of the man she had just attacked. But what they were really watching was 30 years of guilt, finally meeting 30 years of grace. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying content like this, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we'll be sharing another powerful story about an encounter that changed someone's life forever. While America watched Whoopi sob on live television, security cameras backstage captured something shocking. In her dressing room sat a small altar, candles, rosary beads, and dozens of photographs of Michael. For 30 years, Whoopi had been praying to a dead child every night. In 1994, Michael Roumie was 8 years old when he wandered onto the Warner Brothers lot, looking for his brother Jonathan. He got lost, ran into traffic, straight into the path of a speeding car. Whoopi was the only witness. She saw the whole thing. The car hitting Michael, the driver speeding away, the little boy lying broken, calling for his brother. She could have called 911 immediately. Instead, she panicked. She was high, carrying drugs, on probation. So she made a choice that haunted her forever. She left him there. But Michael hadn't died alone. In his final moments, he whispered something to Whoopi that destroyed her faith. "Tell my brother, Jesus still loves him." That's why she couldn't finish the chapel scene in Sister Act 2. Every time she put on that nun's habit, she saw Michael's face. So she quit believing, built walls so high that not even God could reach her. When the producers leaked pre-show footage, America saw Whoopi in her dressing room holding Michael's photograph, whispering, "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." She had recognized Jonathan the moment he walked on stage. Same eyes, same smile. She knew exactly who he was. After 30 years of running, her past had caught up. The slap wasn't about religion. It was about a woman slowly dying inside for 3 decades, finally facing the one person who could destroy her or save her. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying content like this, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we'll be sharing another powerful story about an encounter that changed someone's life forever. Within 6 minutes, number Michael Forgives You was trending worldwide. The leaked security footage hit Twitter like a nuclear bomb. Whoopi praying to Michael's photo. Jonathan asking security to check on her instead of pressing charges. Then, something unprecedented happened. Instead of cancel culture, the internet chose compassion. Christians for Whoopi exploded. Atheists posted prayers. The Pope tweeted, "This is how love wins." Comment sections looked like revivals. "I haven't prayed in 20 years, but I'm praying for her now." At 3:47 p.m., Jonathan posted a video from his hotel room. Eyes red, voice barely a whisper. 30 years ago, I lost my baby brother. Today, I found out why. Michael's last words were, "Tell my brother Jesus still loves him." Whoopi carried that message for 30 years. The video ended with 5 words that broke the internet. "We forgive you, Aunt Whoopi." 47 million views in 2 hours. Churches canceled services to watch together. Suicide prevention centers reported their busiest day in history. At midnight, Whoopi went live from her apartment. No team, no script. "I killed a little boy with cowardice. I chose my freedom over his life. But this angel's last words weren't hatred. They were love. And his brother just called me family." The live stream became a global prayer meeting. 12 million viewers. Muslims in Tehran, Jews in Tel Aviv, atheists in Silicon Valley, all praying for the same broken woman. By morning, Yosh's Aunt Whoopi had 200 million posts. The Vatican released a statement. "This is what resurrection looks like." But Jonathan and Whoopi weren't done. Because what they did next would prove that some miracles are worth waiting 30 years for. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying content like this, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we'll be sharing another powerful story about an encounter that changed someone's life forever. 3 days later, they met where it all began. The exact spot on the Warner Brothers lot where Michael had died 30 years ago. Jonathan arrived carrying a small wooden cross. Whoopi came clutching Michael's photograph and something else. 30 years of letters she had written to a dead boy, but never sent. They knelt together on the concrete, where Michael had taken his last breath. "Michael, your brother is here," Whoopi whispered. "The one you loved so much." Jonathan placed his hand on her shoulder. "Tell him I got his message." Whoopi broke. 30 years of buried agony finally erupting. "He called for you. He kept saying, 'Where's my brother?' And I couldn't help him because I was too scared." "But you did help him. You carried his love when I couldn't feel it. How can you forgive me? How can God forgive me?" Jonathan smiled through tears. "Because that's what love does. It doesn't count sins. It counts souls." Whoopi pulled out rosary beads she hadn't touched in 30 years. With shaking hands, she placed them where Michael had fallen. "Will you pray with me?" They knelt together, 2 broken people finding wholeness. Jonathan began the Lord's Prayer. Whoopi joined in, voice cracking on words she thought she'd forgotten. Then, Whoopi opened her letter to Michael. 30 years of apologies. 30 years of love. She read it aloud as Jonathan wept. Dear Michael, I'm sorry I couldn't save you. But I carried your words like a cross for 30 years. And today, I finally delivered them to your brother. The last line destroyed them both. P.S. Jesus does still love him. And now, I know Jesus still loves me too. As the sun set, something impossible happened. Two enemies became family. Two broken hearts became whole. And somewhere in heaven, an 8-year-old boy smiled because his message had finally made it home. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying content like this, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we'll be sharing another powerful story about an encounter that changed someone's life forever. What happened next changed everything. Not just for Jonathan and Whoopi, but for millions watching from around the world. Within 48 hours, something unprecedented started happening. Churches that had been empty for decades saw lines around the block, not for sermons, for confession. People carrying 30-year-old secrets, inspired by Whoopi's courage. The Chosen app crashed as 47 million people downloaded it simultaneously. Therapy appointments were booked solid for months. Suicide hotlines reported a 90% increase in calls asking for help, not giving up. But the real miracle was happening in families. Sons calling fathers they hadn't spoken to in years. Mothers reaching out to estranged daughters, all using the same phrase, "If Whoopi can be forgiven, maybe I can be too." Jonathan returned to filming The Chosen, but something had changed. His portrayal of Jesus wasn't acting anymore. It was testimony. The cast and crew said they felt like they were watching the real thing. Whoopi took a leave from The View, but not to hide. She started visiting children's hospitals, not as a celebrity, but as someone who understood loss. She never mentioned Michael publicly again, but every sick child she held carried his love. The most powerful change came from an unexpected source. The driver who had hit Michael 30 years ago finally came forward. A 67-year-old man who had been carrying the same guilt as Whoopi. "I saw her forgiveness," he said. "If God can forgive her, maybe He can forgive me too." Hollywood changed, not overnight, but slowly. Scripts about faith stopped being jokes. Stories about redemption got greenlit. Forgiveness became trendy, but in the best way possible. 6 months later, Jonathan and Whoopi appeared together one final time. Not on TV. At the Michael Roumie Memorial Children's Hospital, they had built together on the exact spot where he died. The plaque read simply, "In memory of Michael Roumie, who reminded us that love's last words are always forgiveness." Some said it was the greatest comeback story ever told. Others called it the most powerful redemption in Hollywood history. But Jonathan and Whoopi knew the truth. This wasn't their story. It was Michael's. And after 30 years, his message had finally changed the world. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying content like this, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we'll be sharing another powerful story about an encounter that changed someone's life forever. 1 year later, the world looked different. Not louder, softer. Jonathan never gave another interview about that day. He didn't need to. The Chosen became the most watched series in history, translated into 127 languages. But he stayed the same humble man who knelt on concrete and chose forgiveness over fame. Whoopi returned to The View transformed. Her interviews became conversations about healing instead of attacks on faith. She wore Michael's photo on a chain around her neck, visible to millions, carrying his love into every room she entered. The ripple effects never stopped. The phrase, "If Whoopi can be forgiven," became code for impossible grace in addiction recovery centers, prisons, and therapy sessions worldwide. Pastors quoted it. Therapists prescribed it. Children learned it. A small church in Ohio started Michael Mondays, services where people shared their 30-year secrets and found freedom. The movement spread to 47 countries. Confession wasn't scary anymore. It was healing. The most beautiful legacy lived in the children's hospital. Every sick child received a small wooden cross with 5 words carved into it. Love's last words are forgiveness. Thousands of kids went home healed in ways that had nothing to do with medicine. Jonathan and Whoopi never spoke publicly about their private moment on that concrete. Some miracles are too sacred for stages, but every year on Michael's birthday, they met there. Not for cameras, for communion. The world learned something that day that no script could have written. That forgiveness isn't weakness. That grace isn't soft. That sometimes the person who breaks you is the person God sends to heal you. And that an 8-year-old boy's message of love could travel 30 years and change the world. If this story moved something in your soul, if it reminded you that no secret is too dark for grace, if it made you believe in impossible forgiveness, then Michael's message reached you too. Drop a 7 in the comments. Not for us. For the 7 times Jesus said to forgive. For the reminder that love always gets the last word. Because some stories aren't meant to entertain. They're meant to resurrect.